Today we have Emily. She's going to be talking about email marketing and just some more insights for you on how you guys can start thinking about developing email campaigns, especially for startup or new businesses, to make sure that it's a successful marketing channel for you. So let's first just introduce her to class. All right, go ahead.
Thanks. Hi, I'm Emily Heiger. I am the Senior Email Marketing Manager for a company called Avo. I don't know if any of you have heard of Avo. It's basically a legal directory for attorneys. It's also a resource tool, so if you have any legal issues or questions, you can go and you can post anonymous questions and attorneys will answer them for you. It has basically every attorney that's ever passed the state bar has a profile on Avo that's been rated and reviewed, so a little bit like Yelp in the legal industry. I've been running their email channel for 4 years and been doing email marketing for almost 7 years now. So as you are thinking about all your marketing efforts to get your business up and running, just a little bit of background about why email. It might not be the first thing that people consider. It might not be the newest or most attractive thing. But email marketing, so it is, according to Marketing Sherpa, it is a preferred communication channel. So 72% of people said that they prefer to receive their promotional content in their inbox. And this is more so than TV, post, print, social, and text. And my theory on this is it's because with email, for the most part, you get to engage with it on your own time. It's not blocking you from finishing something on the web. It's not interrupting your favorite TV show. I mean, it might be blowing up your phone in the little red bubble with how many unopened emails that you have in there. But for the most part, you get to pick when you engage with it and when you digest it. The other positive thing about email is it's cheap as far as marketing goes, and it's relatively easy. So if you compare the spend on not only an email marketing campaign itself, but setting up your entire email program with what you're going to pay for social retargeting or paid search or TV, the cost is going to pale in comparison, and you're going to get a really high ROI. It's also a really versatile platform. So nowadays, most email service providers like MailChimp or Constant Contact, their user dashboard, their UI is so easy to use. It's like a drag and drop. You don't even need to know how to code anymore. And it's mobile responsive. So same thing, those main email service providers have made it so that most of their templates are going to automatically adjust to be the best viewing experience depending on how your customers are seeing their emails. And that's basically just included at this point. And it's something you don't even have to worry about figuring out how to do for yourself. It keeps your audience engaged. Email is considered the #1 driver of return traffic to your website or blog, and it helps you stay top of mind. And it's been around forever. So does anybody have any guesses of when the first mass email was sent to consumers? I can give you some, oh yeah.
1990?
We're going back further than that. Fleetwood Mac had come out with the Rumors album, Saturday Night Fever, John Travolta was having a big year, and Jimmy Carter was president. So the first mass email was actually sent in 1978, so this is a tried or true channel. It's been tested and developed over so many years. So as you're getting started thinking about using email, there's just a few keys that I want to talk about on how you can be successful with your email program. So the first thing you want to think about is, why are you emailing your customers? What do you want them to do when they get your email? And how do you define success? There's bucketed types of emails that you can think about when you're thinking about why you're emailing your customers. So transactional emails, these are basically emails that are a confirmation of any action taken on site. This is going to be like your receipt email, your password reset email, your shipping confirmation, anything that just ties directly to what somebody's done with your company. The next one is your welcome email. So this is going to be an email that you're going to send out when a user registers with you. Conversion or promotional emails, this is what most people use for selling or promoting whatever products that they have. So any sort of email that's going to drive somebody to purchase, to contact you, to submit a lead. So if you think about like a real estate company, trying like Redfin, trying to get people to book appointments with their real estate brokers. You can do appointments. So another good example is like if you have a hair salon or something, booking appointments. Another type of email that you're gonna see out there a lot is an email that is seeking feedback. So this is gonna be your survey or write a review type email. You have re-engagement and win-back emails. So you think about like holiday emails, birthday greetings, abandoned carts, you almost completed your purchase but you left. These are the we miss you type emails. And then the last main type is the announcement email. So any newsworthy event if your business is moving or anything like that. The next thing that you want to think about as you're developing your email strategy is how to deliver the right message. So what that looks like is establishing your goals. You want to communicate that goal or purpose through the content of your email to the right person. So this is all about targeting, making sure that you're not sending every single email that you send doesn't go to every single person on your list. If you do that, what that's going to do is that's going to hurt your list, because every time you send an email, some percentage of your database is going to opt out and you're going to lose the opportunity to ever talk to that person again. It is also going to drive people to stop paying attention at the right time. So think about defining your send cadence. If somebody just bought something, do they really need to get your promotional email the next day? Or is there another email, like a review email, that would make more sense to send to that person? And then the most important thing, so near and dear to my heart, your emails are only as good as your data. You cannot email market without data. To be successful, you think about the inbox is like so noisy and so crowded, and if you use your data well, it's gonna help you break through all that noise. So you want it to be localized, personalized, and you wanna customize it whenever you can. Two companies that do a really good job of this are Yelp and TripAdvisor. Most of the emails that they send out are highly personalized and refer like straight back to what you've done on their site or how you've interacted with them. You also think about the data makes sense for email marketing, but it's gonna have applications far beyond just your email program. So this is gonna be retargeting. It's gonna also help your customers know, this is how you're gonna also build trust with your customers. So they're gonna know that the messages that you're sending them are relevant. It's basically just like the foundational key to having a good email program. And how do you store your data? So I think, at least for me, when I was learning email marketing, this felt like super intimidating. The data flow and working with APIs and how do you store it and how do you keep it up to date. But there's so many tools out there now aimed at people who are starting their own businesses that are free or cheap or just so user-friendly. So having a good data flow is as easy as having a Google Doc. You can think like the top 3 pieces of data that you're gonna start with, obviously email address, the customer's name. Let's start with like date registered. There's a lot of other things you can do with data and what you're gonna gather from people, but you don't wanna totally interrupt that conversion experience. So other data that you could get without interrupting conversion might be like, what did the person buy? Who did they contact? Do you know what city they're in? Do you know what state they're in? Do you know what gender they are? So anything that you can store or gather that's not too disruptive, but just starting with the basics, email, name, and date registered. You have that in a Google Doc. You're gonna pick your email service provider. So somebody like MailChimp or Constant Contact, a lot of them are free or very, very cheap. And what you do is you get a tool like Zapier that basically connects the two. So every time you update your Google Doc, Zapier is gonna auto-feed that into MailChimp so that your email database is just ready to go every time you send an email. So it's all done on the back end, totally seamless. You're not having to enter it in multiple different places. You're not having to be like a software developer. It's super easy. The other thing too with your data is you need to keep it clean. So if you are entering registration dates or purchase dates, don't do January 30, 2018 one time for one customer and 1-30. You just got to be consistent with how you input it and keep it current. So you just need to, with that, I think it's just habit. You just need to get in the habit when you're doing like your TurboTax or your accounting software, whatever the case may be, take 2 minutes and do your Google Doc updates, and your data will be there to do the work for you. And here are some of my favorite tools that you can use that are relatively cheap. So email service, who actually sends your emails, MailChimp, Constant Contact. Stock photos, Shutterstock and ThinkStock are both good. They have kind of cheaper options for subscriptions versus like a Getty Images program, which can be pretty expensive. And then I'll talk later about email rendering tools, but making sure that your email looks good, Litmus and Email and Acid are kind of a good go-to for those. Okay, so you have thought about like the strategy and your purpose and the data that you're gonna have to build your emails. So as you actually go in to building your email program, there's kind of 5 main things that you wanna think about. So start small. There's a million things that you can do with email marketing, and it's pretty impressive. But you wanna think, where are you gonna have the biggest impact for the least amount of effort, prioritize, and then build. So I would suggest probably thinking about, what are your transactional emails? What do those look like? Where would your customers or where would your users expect to be hearing from you? Your receipt emails, again, your confirmation, password resets, any of those. And then probably the one-off or the next step up from that is a welcome email. And then you can, once you get kind of those foundational ones built, then think about what makes the most sense for my business and my users to go after that. Subject lines. I could probably teach an entire class on subject lines, but you spend all this time with strategy, you spend all this time with your data, and none of it matters if they don't open your email. So writing a subject line is an interesting thing. People get on average 88 emails to their inbox every single day, probably some more than others. Writing a good subject line is hard. It's hard because you need to keep it short and sweet. So like 5 to 7 words. You need to lead with the main content in your email. And the reason for that is not only because people scan, but also because on mobile, the preview pane where people see their inbox usually truncates that down to about 3 words. And some tips when you're thinking about writing a subject line, you want to personalize it, first name, city, whatever the case may be. Make it actionable, so think about actionable words that you can use, like something that someone can take away or something that they get, things like that. You can engage with a question, convey a sense of urgency, and all that is great, are all fine and good, unless you use spam trap words. So what happens with spam traps is Google and Yahoo and all email providers, they're constantly checking what you guys are getting before you even see it. And if they don't like it, they will either not accept it at all, or they'll be like, all right, fine, but you're going straight to junk. Does anybody even open their junk folder anymore? No. Maybe if you're like, I thought I was supposed to get an email and it didn't come through. So there's some pretty basic things to avoid. Probably don't use a lot of dollar signs. Win, winning, winner, not junk, things like that. When you do get in the vein of writing a subject line, you can just Google it. There's a lot of tips and tricks of things to avoid, but yeah, you just want to try to avoid that at all costs. And the other thing too is I looked at some subject lines in my inbox like 2 days ago, and I thought these were 2 really good examples because Handy is like all things housekeeping, and they could have easily said, get 50% off your next housekeeping service. And I probably would have been interested in that, but instead what they did is they said, take control of your mess. So it's actionable, but it's also like a little bit more fun and engaging than your standard subject line. Same thing with Zillow. So they could have localized it or personalized it by saying Seattle apartments for rent. But instead they did, what can you afford? So using the question format, but also just thinking like, how is that gonna kind of play up to my user's ego? So you can have fun with it. In the legal space, so at Avo, we don't often get the chance to have fun because legal's not that fun. people that are there for divorce or DUI, criminal defense. It's not a fun industry really, so we don't often have a lot of opportunities to be, a little bit more clever with things. We need to be a little bit more straightforward with our users. But one subject line test we did that got to be a little bit fun is we wanted for our PR team to send a feedback email. So we were surveying users in Washington and Colorado right after the marijuana laws had passed. So we tested 2 subject lines. Tell us what you think about the new marijuana laws, which is like, okay, that's like a super average, pretty straightforward subject line. Maybe somebody will see marijuana and that might get like a little bit more interest than the average ones. But then we decided, this is like really top of mind. It's interesting. When was the last time we got to email anybody about weed? So we did another subject line that just said pot, weed, marijuana, take a brief survey. And that one had like a 30% higher open rate. So you think about what's the content within the email itself and how can I be creative in such a short time frame to get people's attention, to get them to open. This is
I have a question just on subject lines.
Yes.
What do you think about emojis and subject lines?
I am not, personally, I'm not a huge fan. I think there's a time and a place for it. I think it depends on your brand. If you're thinking about using emojis and subject lines, I think they've come a long way, but they're also not accepted on all email clients. So when we email our attorneys, most of them are on Outlook, and Outlook doesn't take them right now. So you want to make sure if you're going to use an emoji that it makes sense with your brand and your business to do that and that voice that you want to convey to your users. And then also you want to make sure that it's going to show up, not as one of those weird question mark in a box things. Yeah.
A quick question for email marketing. Is your goal you want the customer to open your email and take the survey, or just open it?
Well, I'll get into that, kind of how you think about your ultimate goal is going to be so the question is the goal to open, or is the goal to open and take the survey? And I'll talk about kind of conversion and what that looks like and how you're going to define that with each different email. But definitely the goal is not just to get someone to open. If that was the goal, you could be pretty clickbaity about it. There's going to be some action usually, unless it's just a straight informative email. Most of the emails that you're going to send, especially marketing emails, are going to have a goal to drive the user to do something else, whatever that action might be. Does that answer your question? Okay. So you think about, what do you want people to see when they actually open your email? And this is just kind of a pretty straightforward anatomy of an email. So every email is going to have a header and a footer. Header is going to be 9 times out of 10, that's just your logo at the top of the email, brand recognition. Your primary message is going to go in your hero image. You want that to be, that's whatever the main takeaway is that you want the person to get from it, your event or your promotion or whatever it might be. So you want to design that to be on brand. So at Avo, what that looks like is we don't use animated imagery, pretty straightforward language, versus if you're a company like Rover, that's a dog walking service, they can be pretty fun with that. Maybe their images, maybe their hero images are animated. You need it to be mobile friendly, which again, most of the email service providers should do for you. Lead with a strong, concise headline. Call to action should tie to what the hero image is conveying. It should be short and sweet, but the most important thing is your call to action. Whatever you're telling the person to do in the call to action should map to where they're actually taken. So if your call to action says buy now, do not take them to an FAQ page. If it says learn more, do not take them to checkout. Do right by your users and make sure that the experience from the call to action, that the call to action is communicating, ties to where you actually take them. And then you have this space, so below the fold, that people are going to see secondary messages. This can be additional information about what's in the hero image. This could be some totally separate secondary promotion that you've decided as a business goal is not as important as the first one, or for your user doesn't make sense to serve up. You'll see a lot of companies do other recommended products in this space. And then a good mix of imagery and copy. People scan, they don't read everything, so try not to get too copy heavy. So you built your email, you have defined your strategy, you've spent all this time. Take 10 minutes and test it. You can't pull an email back. Once it's out there, it's out there. This is your brand voice. Like, this is your representation of your company to your users. Make sure the links work. Make sure that there's not spelling errors. Check rendering. Again, that ties back to like Email on Acid and Litmus, those tools. You send them your email, they will populate it in all the main ISPs or all the main devices. You'll also start to learn as you build your business and you do more marketing, how your users are interacting with you. So at Avo, with our attorneys, most of them are on desktop on Outlook. So that's what I spend the most amount of my time paying attention to. Our consumers are majority mobile, Yahoo, Gmail. A lot of time looking at iPhone renderings, and you can kind of learn to pick and choose so you're not looking at all of them ad nauseum. The other side of testing and learning, so aside from QAing, is taking the time to A/B test. So I've already talked about subject lines are tough, but not only are they tough, this is your chance to see what resonates with your customers. This is a really easy, cheap, quick way to make tweaks to see like what promotions are working the best, what kind of imagery are people responding to the most. And as you're starting a business, this can be a really informative tool for how you kind of frame your brand moving forward. I think it has implications obviously for marketing, but even bigger than that. And email is just gonna be a great way to learn a lot about how your customers want to hear from you. Once you've done all this, go big with automation. So how email works and why email is so great is you can do all this work up front to build your email program. You've built a few transactional emails, a welcome email, you're starting to send promotional emails. 85% of these are gonna be running in the background while you're working on other things. And they are doing all the work for you for all this consumer outreach and serving your consumers in a really great, timely way. And you're not even really having to worry about them. So again, you've set up your transactional emails, your welcome emails, and then you can start thinking about, is there anything else that I can do that makes sense in an automated sort of way? And this is where, again, using your data is gonna come into play. So you can use your data to set reminders or check-ins. You can use your data to send a birthday greeting if that makes sense. Who does a good job of this? I have a hair salon that sends me like 6-month appointments via email. It's literally just like based off the date that I was last in there. I think Amazon has like shipment reminders if you're subscribed to certain products. It's been 4 weeks, is it time for a refill? All of that effort that is like such a great user experience, it's just set up in the background running for you. There's also probably like an email 301 class would be Nurture series. Just a little bit about what that might look like is you send a customer an email. If they interact, they get this path of experiences. If they don't interact, we're gonna send them a totally different email. So you're basically breaking off people's email marketing experience, and it can be multi-channel based on their exact behavior. That's a little bit more advanced, but it's a direction you can go with automation. Does anybody have any questions? Yeah.
I have two.
Okay.
Is there like a way to do A/B testing more quickly rather than like you manually editing it yourself? Like, is there software or something, like a program you use to A/B test?
So it depends on your email service provider, but if you were using something like MailChimp, they're gonna make it pretty easy to do it for you. So they would have a way to like split. Say you're sending an email to 200 people, they're gonna have a way for you to split it in whatever percentages you want. But you would have to then be writing the subject lines yourself. I think it just kind of depends a little bit on what you want to test. But if you're testing subject lines or like creative or something like that, or imagery, all of that should be pretty easy.
And then I guess my second question is similar. It's like with the automation, is that something like just using HubSpot's CRM, or is there different ones?
There's a lot of different
There's
ones.
a lot of different ones.
Yeah, so asking about automation and what tools are available out there, there's a lot of different ones. Most of the email service providers will be able to do it for you. It just depends a little bit on which ones you choose to use. Yeah, and you can Google how to use HubSpot for automation, and there will be like 7 million articles on it for you. Yeah. Anybody else? Okay, so just a little bit of background, some like industry speak. Email buzzwords. So I've talked so far about transactional emails, password reset. These are the emails that are one-to-one, so they're tied directly to what somebody has done on your site. It completes a transaction with you. And a lot of these, you're actually not required to have an unsubscribe link because it's not promotional or sales. And then the other bucket where you're gonna spend a lot of your time building emails and where you're gonna drive like revenue and people contacting you or whatever your goal is, those are gonna be with your commercial emails. So this is one that we sent for our annual legal conference that we send every year. This is sent to a large group of people who are your customers, and we are required to have unsubscribe links on those. And the reason we were required to have unsubscribe links on those is because a law called CAN-SPAM compliancy. This was a law that was signed in 2003 by President Bush. It sets the national standard for sending commercial email and sets some rules and guidelines about what we as email marketers can and cannot do. So no deceptive subject lines, getting rid of kind of the clickbait experience in the subject line. We are all required to include our office location. Most people put that in the bottom, so in the footer of the email. If it is promotional, commercial, if you're marketing or selling in your email, you're gonna be required to provide a way for the user to unsubscribe, and you're gonna need to unsubscribe or honor those in a timely fashion. And this is just know there is in the email world, when you're analyzing the efficacy and performance of an email, there's a difference between sent and delivered. So you can send 100,000 emails, but maybe 99,000 of those will actually only make it to somebody's inbox, whether the person is already opted out, it's an invalid email address, AOL didn't like your subject line, whatever the case may be. These are open rate and click-through rate. Those are the kind of the basic metrics that you're gonna use. That's how you're gonna compare testing if you're testing subject lines. Click-through rate is obviously somebody taking an action on the email. What I think is really interesting to drill down to is the conversion rate. So the conversion rate, I think you were asking, the conversion rate is gonna vary with each of your emails depending on what the goal is. So for some emails, it might be a certain number of transactions. So did the person open, click, and then purchase? For me, when I'm emailing consumers on Avo, it's did the person contact an attorney? So it just kind of depends on what type of email you're sending and what the goal is. Did the person fill out the survey, whatever the case may be. And then your unsubscribe rates. And so we're thinking about the different buckets and types of emails. I put together some that I've seen out in the wild that do a good job. So again, the transactional emails, they confirm and complete action or activity on site. These should be concise, to the point, relates directly to what you just did. I don't think that this is a great place for cross-selling. I think you need to do right by your consumers. These are gonna have highest engagement. You can kind of think about, oh, I have this opportunity, they're like paying attention to me and my company and my brand, but really these should be pretty like true to what they've done and what they should expect by delivery confirmation. So probably you've seen a lot of these: delivery confirmation, receipt email, etc. Welcome emails. So again, one of the foundational emails that you can set up. The purpose of this is usually going to be driving engagement and traffic. This is sent to your new customers after they register. You can, there's a website called reallygoodemails.com that will show you a lot of different emails that they found that they think do a good job. Probably 98% of your welcome emails are gonna have 3 featured pieces of content of kind of what you can expect from this business or what you can expect from being a member of the email program. And then conversion or promotional emails. This is probably 80% of what you get from your inbox. At least it is for me. This is what you see most of. These are driving people to convert, whether that's purchasing or whatever the case may be. Usually there's some sort of offer or promotion. Again, you're not sending every email to every user, so target it however it makes sense for the content of the email. Maybe this company, BioLite, maybe they're targeting just people who have bought the lights. Hopefully they're excluding somebody who bought a light within the last week, something like that. This other company over here, Harry's, so they are using those zeros or a countdown timer that's gonna create urgency. It's a little bit of creative, pretty clear hero image. And then interesting to see how they've decided to use their secondary spaces. So this is a little bit more information that ties up to the hero image, or you can do more recommended products down below. Feedback emails. So these are your survey emails or review emails. And these drive users to provide feedback and insights. The messaging on these is usually let us know what you thought or help others with your insights. This TripAdvisor has done an amazing job because traditionally this is a pretty straightforward email, but what they've done is they've used all their data that they know about me to get me to come back and write a review. So this is actually kind of accomplishing a few things. It's asking me to leave more reviews, it's re-engaging, it's very, very data-driven, but it's also a little bit ego-driven. So it's like, I've done a good job. Look at all these, you know, like look at everyone that's seen my reviews. I want to go and get more of that. Survey. So that's pretty straightforward. That's what I'm talking about when a lot of these are pretty straightforward. Expedia sends this, and it's actually like a little bit infamous in the email marketing world. So you would get this email when you land, right after your flight is over. So they're using data about your flights to inform when to send the email, and it's about as straightforward as possible. So they've done a really good job there. Getting into re-engagement emails. So these are the emails that are focused on bringing traffic back to your site and conversion. Messaging on these are usually alert or account updates and recommendations. These will go to targeted users, however you're defining, you know, whatever subset of your customers that you want to bring back to your site. And the timing on this is just is going to just depend on how you've defined kind of who's unengaged. Yelp does a really good job of this. DoorDash, they're using the data that they know about me and where I'm located and other things that I've looked for and serving up recommendations to make it as personalized as possible. And again, because I love it, the TripAdvisor. So they're kind of 2 birds with 1 stone with that email. Your win-back emails. So these are, unlike re-engagement, these are your inactive users. Probably you've already tried to, I guess abandoned cart can kind of fall in both categories, but probably with these people, you've already tried to re-engage them and they've either gone totally stale or they've canceled. So you'll see abandoned cart emails or we miss you messaging, that kind of thing. And then the last one is your announcement emails. So any sort of newsworthy event or office location, privacy policy updates, anything like that. I had to put this up there. We rarely get to brag about attorneys and they're like marketing savvy. That is not necessarily their strong point. But this law firm did such an awesome job. So when the first travel ban went into effect, this is immigration law, they sent out an email to all of their clients, like right away, who had immigration paperwork or visas in process with a little bit about this is what happened, we're writing to give you some recommendations, some links for tips, that kind of thing. I thought that they did an awesome job with that. And then there's one more type that we haven't talked about, not really. So these are alerts and notification emails. These are the ones that you're gonna see if you are a blog subscriber or if your site or your business has any sort of news feed. It's gonna be a wrap up of content every time basically there's a new post, or once a day or once a week, whatever the timing may be. It's usually pretty straightforward. Real estate listings do it all the time. Quora, Nextdoor, sites like that. Okay, so I hear that we do like a case study or a use case dilemma. So one of the hardest things to do in email marketing is to get your inactive users to re-engage with you. You have to think about what's your message, what do you have to offer them now that's different than when you had before, and why should they come back? So we've done this a couple times. The first time we did this at Avo was in 2015. The goal was to get users re-engaged with the site, so basically traffic. We have a database of 4 million subscribers. We try to think about how do we get them to come back. This is especially tricky and legal because people don't have necessarily ongoing legal problems all the time. Your divorce happens over X amount of years, or your DUI happened over 1 year, whatever the case may be. They also don't always want to hear from us. So when you have a legal issue, if it's something straightforward like estate planning, that's fine. But you could also be trying to remind them of like a really hard, dark time in their life. So we do not do re-engagement like all a happy birthday. They don't want to get happy birthday emails from Avo. So you also need to think about that as well. So what we did is we came up with what we thought was a really creative campaign. We tried to have a little bit of fun with it. So what's your verdict? Like, do you still need help from us? We did test the hero image. We tried animations. We tried some different puns. But basically the main copy was all the same. Just tell us if you still need legal help, and we're here to help you if you do. And how did it go? It did not go well. So we sent out 3 million emails, almost 3 million emails. We had our open rate was far below the industry standard. It was like, the subject line, I should have included it in here. I apologize that I didn't. The subject line was like, do you still need legal help? Or something like that. So open rate was not good. Click-through rate looks like it's good because it's far above the industry standard for something like this. But 30% of those clicks were opt-outs. So we lost 30% of our 3 million users by sending an email, by sending them that email. So my question to you all is, now that you're all email marketing experts, what do you do? Because we still have a user database of almost 4 million people. We still have all of these consumers that have come to Avo. We basically stopped contacting them after about 90 days of their initial time on our site. We want to try to figure out, there's got to be something that we can do to get them to come back. So I just would pose it all to you guys of, what would you do to re-engage your base? How can we optimize this? What did we miss? What can we do better? Yes?
Do you offer some kind of like free service? You want to be inbound marketing, but like reaching out to them with like almost an inbound tactic, like having like a free question and answer session or something on the site that's just not trying to get them to pay.
Yeah, so that's a super good idea, right? Like if you have some sort of e-commerce aspect to your site, offering a promotion is a really good way to go. We do have what's called Avo Legal Services, which are some, you can have like 40 minutes of an attorney's time for $15, or if you have like a really straightforward divorce case where you don't own property and don't have kids, it's like $500. So we're packaging it up kind of on the cheap side of things for people. But we don't have that many people that use it, and we don't have that many, it just hasn't really resonated, but that is a really good idea. And if you are a company that's selling something with, if you have an e-commerce platform, a promotion would be a good way to do it too. Anybody else?
We have time for 2 ideas before we finish the answer. So 2 people can share an idea each in the last 7 minutes.
Yeah.
I guess changing the subject line, so maybe instead of asking if like they still need help, so I guess you would assume that if they haven't been on the site for 90 days or however many months, that they wouldn't need the help on the same issue anymore. So I don't know exactly what it is, but
Yeah.
engaging them in a different way.
Definitely. Subject line optimization is definitely a great idea. Yes.
I think you talked about this sort of key insight that like when it comes to legal help, it's not something that people are buying unless they need to, and it's sort of like an infrequent thing. So maybe part of the like big picture strategy adjustment is like recognizing that you asking them to come get legal help might not work at all because they're not going to come get it until they already need it. So maybe just like leaving them with an open offer, like, next time you need us, 10% off or something like that. And
Don't
then
forget
just
about
be
us.
patient and waiting.
Yeah. That is like so many hours of marketing meetings at Avos around kind of that problem. But yeah, absolutely. And that would be more of like a brand recognition play. So getting kind of the Avo name out there, making sure, referral program might be good for that or something like that. Maybe your friends do. Maybe your friends need legal help. So, yeah, so what we did, we tried again. One of the things we did was we got tighter on our targeting. So we decided we're not going to send this to like quite literally everybody. We're going to send it just to people. So Avo has a free Q&A forum. So we're going to send it only to people that have been on that Q&A forum but had not actually contacted an attorney. So we're thinking maybe there's still some legal help there that they need. We had a we have a secondary goal in there of contacting an attorney. We customize our content. So that email that we sent the first time around was super generic to everybody. And I looked at what data that we had available about people that might be interesting. Again, using Yelp and TripAdvisor as an example. So what we did is we sent an email to people that featured their question. The data was asked, how many attorneys answered it. You can rate the answer on Avo. So yes or no, had you done that yet? And then how many people had seen that question. And then the secondary message matched attorneys based on the legal issue and the person's market. Do you guys have any guesses on how it did? Drum roll until you're on the edge of your seats. So our deliverability improved because 30% of people opted out of the first campaign. Gmail and Yahoo were like, whoa, you guys are terrible. We're gonna send everything to junk. Nobody wants to hear from you anymore. So this time, because our subject line was a lot better, so we had a dynamic, customized subject line, like it included the practice area, the immigration question that you asked in King County. So it was personalized. So we saw 176% increase in our open rate, 203% increase in our click-through rate, which was not based on unsubscribes. We got 23,000 people to come back and log into our site, and we made a little bit of money. So it was pretty much a huge win for data-driven storytelling and using the data and having it be customized and personalized to the user. And it just shows the power and efficacy of taking the time to do that. To the point now that if you come to Avo and ask a question, it's gonna be an email that you get, I think at like day 10 or day 14. So thinking about timing. We don't send all of our emails out at once, but we're gonna integrate it as part of our user flow. Yep, so that's it. Thank you.